Okay. Hello and welcome to the Flipping and Wholesaling Houses in New York show. I am Michael Pinter, where I teach you how to start. I am Michael Pinter, where I teach you how to start flipping and wholesaling houses, or if you are already doing it, how to grow your business. So, got a question. I had it up before, and I lost it. It's basically, a seller puts an online inquiry and says they want 340,000, but you can only pay 300,000. What do you do? There's a lot to unpack there. So I'm going to just give an overview so I don't forget. Well, I still forget, but number one is almost every seller wants more than what you can pay. Number two is that's really a third of the business is seller conversion, sales conversion. I consider it a third of the business. And number three is, what was number three? Those are really the two things. Let's cover those two. So first thing is we have this idea when we get into this business that we're going to call people and people are going to tell us, answer the phone and immediately say, I want to sell my house for any price. That I'm not going to say never happens, but pretty much never happens. Almost always a seller has a number in mind. And that may be the number that they owe. That may be a number that they think they need to do whatever they want to do next, maybe buy another house, whatever it is. That always happens. And I will tell you that anytime I've made an offer and the seller has said, okay, then I've done something wrong. So I remember the last one, it's 227D Hubbard Avenue in Riverhead. I think that's the address. That was the last time. I was really busy making a lot of offers, buying a lot of deals at the time. I made the guy an offer of 225, and he said like 2 days later, yes. And that should have been a sign to me. If I was really on the ball, I would have immediately said something wrong. And that would have been a great good buy at like 175. I ended up not doing anything to it, but selling it at like 240, basically breaking even on it. At 175, that would have been a good deal. I should tell you a little bit about the deal while we're on the subject. It was a modular home that was put together in two pieces, but it looked like a mobile home, like a manufactured home. The difference, of course, is that a modular home is a regular house. A manufactured home is something that is movable. And it happens to be in an area where there are a lot of mobile homes. And I wanted to maybe do some work to it because I realized after I closed or too late into the process that I had paid too much. And I called a friend and he told me that looks like a mobile home. And I remember the feeling I had. It felt like somebody punched me in the stomach. Because if that's a mobile home, I paid over $100,000 too much for it. Around $100,000 too much. So, and that was the first and last deal I've ever woken up from worry about in the middle of the night. So back to this thing. Sellers always want more. Sellers will always give you too high of a price. Always. There is no way to avoid it, right? The question is, do they have a problem that an investor buying the property at a discount will solve? And is that problem enough to make them take a discount? Obviously, if you're going to give them $1 discount, anybody would take it. If you're going to give them, hundreds of thousands of dollar discount, there has to be a significant problem. And just to reiterate, really, I buy properties for four reasons. I can pretty much determine in any deal which are the four reasons, but only four reasons why sellers sell me properties at a discount. The first is a time issue. Either they need to close very quickly, which is unlikely in New York, but happens in other places, or more likely that they need more time. So I met with a seller yesterday who just wanted to know that he has a cash buyer because he wants to close on the property cash. He needs to be able to move quickly, and that was it. I bought a lot of properties from sellers who just needed more time. They didn't have a place to go yet. So that's a time issue. Second thing is a condition issue. It's very common. Either the property's in terrible condition, the seller believes it's in terrible condition, and the seller believes that either they're going to have to put money into it to sell it and they don't want to, or that it's sometimes the property in such bad condition that a regular, ordinary retail buyer can't get a mortgage on it, right? It's in that bad of condition. So it's condition problems. The third is municipal issues, which is more specific to New York, where there's either unpermitted additions that could cause a problem, there's open permits, open violations. I'll take those and deal with them. And the fourth is occupant issues. It's not always just that there's a tenant who hasn't paid. Sometimes it's just a relative that they don't want to evict. Sometimes it's an occupant, who I bought a property once from the boyfriend of the owner's daughter who didn't leave. So occupant issues, and I'll deal with those myself. So those are the four reasons I buy. Now, obviously, if the reason isn't severe enough for them to give me enough of a discount to buy, then we're not going to do business. And people say, when I tell people that, and I sort of retrain them, because I think some people who get into the business think we're taking advantage of people. We're buying property at a discount. We're ripping off widows and orphans. And that's not what we do at all. We solve a problem because they believe that they can't go through their traditional means. Now, in any given market, 9 out of 10 properties are going to sell listed with an agent on the MLS, on the multiple listing service. But about 10% are going to sell off market. Now, sometimes that's a neighbor buying it from his friend for full price, but more likely it's being sold to an investor like me who is going to solve some of these problems for the seller. So the question was like, how do you do it? How you do that is sales conversion. I personally believe that the business, it's a simple business. It's a hard business. It's a simple business. It really falls into three categories. Some people have it into two categories: buying houses and selling houses. I label it into I divide it into three categories. The first is lead generation, so getting people to contact me who want to sell. The second is sales conversion, which is what we're talking about now, how you get somebody to come down from their price. And the third is disposition of the property, so selling it, assigning the contract, holding it, renting it, whatever you're doing to it. So sales conversion to me is the third of the business. It's important. It's the part that I do. It's not easy, right? Somebody has a number in mind. It's not easy to do. There are a lot of ways that you can. The key really is to exacerbate the pain and say, well, what is holding you back here? Do you want the ability to move to next to your kids and see your grandchildren? Is that important to you? And then you dig deeper. Really, how important it is to you? It's really important. At some point, if the problem is severe enough, the money doesn't matter. Again, at some point, it's very important, right? If the person owes X owes $340,000, they're probably not going to come out of pocket at the closing and take less money and have to write a check. I've done that at a closing, and that closing still bothers me to this day. I forgot the address, but it was in Inwood. So the facts of each case are different. Now, if this person tells me he wants to buy something for $200,000 and he doesn't owe anything on a $340,000 house, I may push and push and push just the fact that he wants to get to where he's going. If the situation is different, if he really owes that money or if he needs all that money, it may be impossible for me to convince him to take a lower price. So one of the things I've been doing lately, you always have to try and get the seller down, right? And really, sometimes it's better to not even know the seller's price. And most of the time, you get online inquiry, they're not telling you how much it is. And most people in most places do not want to give you a figure first. And when I say it's better not to know, is because your brain starts dragging your offer number higher if you know that that's what the guy's looking for. Well, if I can only get him $20,000 less, maybe he'll take it. But you got to buy it $50,000 less. These things happen all the time. So you have to sort of take that with a grain of salt. The offer you make to a seller has to be really determined by what you need to make money. It cannot be determined on what the seller wants. What the seller wants, in many cases, is irrelevant, unless it's very close to what you want to offer. And I can get into more details on that in another one. But sales conversion, getting a seller to say, yes, I will take your offer, is complicated, right? I've studied the John Martinez, which is now Jerry Green method. I've studied Steve Trang's method. These guys are really good at getting you to get the seller to a point where it's not about money. And what newbie investors say is, well, what if the guy doesn't have a deep enough problem to do that? Then guess what? You're not going to buy the property. That's the truth. And you have to accept that, right? If the guy doesn't have a real problem, he's not going to take a big discount. You're solving a problem, right? And there are a lot of little problems that I solve, and sometimes you have to poke at them. So, for example, bought a house recently where it was his mother's house, tons of crap, like floor to ceiling crap in the house, and the thought of cleaning it was daunting to him. So I said, "You sell it to me, you don't have to clean it," and he just lit up. Like, he was so happy. He didn't think it was possible to sell a house full of that crap, and he also didn't think it was possible for him to ever clean it out. So that could be an issue. Timing, as we said, is an issue. There are other little things that are issues, that could be issues and could be a big deal to a seller. You have to sort of get that out of them. And sometimes you want to ask, right? Besides money, what else here is important to you? Sometimes they won't tell you, and sometimes they will. So sometimes it's keeping an occupant in there for a certain amount of time. Oh, the person's been living here a long time. Can you leave him here? Those are things that happen. So I hope this was helpful. There's a lot to unpack here. Like I said, it's a third of my business. I could probably talk for 17 hours about sales conversion if I wanted to. But also, I really wanted to just reiterate, almost every seller wants more than you can pay. That's just a fact. And then there's a negotiation that goes on. So I hope this was helpful. If you're interested in all the ways I can help you, go to howtoflipnewyork.com or learntoflipandwholesale.com. If you are watching on YouTube, please subscribe. If you're watching on any media channel, please click the thumbs up. The likes really help the algorithm. A lot more people are seeing my videos because you have been liking, so keep clicking the thumbs up. And I post 5 times a week. I really, really, really appreciate you asking questions so that I can answer them. That's the whole point of this channel, is to answer your questions. So please keep the comments with questions coming. And if it's a simple answer, I'll just reply with an answer. If it's something I've covered recently, I'll send you a link to a video or videos on it. And if it's something I haven't covered in a while or I've never covered before, I will be happy to do a brand new video on it. So thank you very, very much for watching. I really appreciate it.